Welcome to Voices from the Valley, where we meet and learn from the movers and shakers in and around the Merrimack Valley. And now your hosts, John Bachmann and Ben Tallberg.
All right, Ben.
Cool.
You've talked quite a bit about your musical background and how you're hiding new guitars from Ari and all of that stuff. So you're kind of musically inclined, right?
Yeah. So one of the coolest things just lately, I saw the Music Mill, Manchester Music Mill. That place is awesome. They got guitars all over the place. They got a thing out back where they have pro audio equipment, so a separate building. Huge, huge. But I started off playing drums years ago. But the way I started off was kind of interesting because I went to see Blue Man Group. You ever seen Blue Man Group?
I've never been there. I know about them.
Yeah.
My family's been quite a few times.
Yeah. If you haven't checked them out, pretty awesome. It was about 20 years ago when I saw them, so they probably changed quite a bit. But I didn't care for the blue guys.
You didn't like the blue guys?
There's the blue guys that are there. I didn't care for them. That was cool. They were cool and all that stuff. But
so you were just there for the man group?
Is that what they're called? There's like a band that's behind them, and I was just mesmerized by the drummer and the guitarist, but more the drummer. And I actually afterwards, you go down the stairs to leave at Charles Playhouse, I think it is, or something like that. And I got to shake the guy's hand, and I was just like, man, that was killer. You're amazing. And on the ride home, my cousin, actually my wife's cousin, said, oh, hey, yeah, what'd you think of the show? I said, the drums was amazing. He's like, oh, I got a set of drums in my attic. You want them? I'm like, are you kidding me? I didn't know you had a drums. Yeah, hell yeah. And so did that, and it was self-taught and things like that.
So the Blue Man Group got you started drumming.
Blue Man Group.
That's awesome.
Isn't that crazy?
It is.
And the amazing thing is I heard that somebody actually tried out for Blue Man Group, and he is sitting right here. His name is Zach Fields from Zach Fields Drums and Music. How you doing, man?
Great.
Yeah.
How you doing?
So you tried out.
I did.
For Blue Man Group.
Yep,
Let's
I
give
did.
that story.
That's
right.
awesome, man. Where'd that come from?
Let's see. So I also saw Blue Man Group when I was in high school. It was insane. Blue Men were awesome. Drum set player was insane. I studied with one of the drum set players in Blue Man Group by default at a drum camp when I was in high school, and one thing led to another. So then went to school for music, and then it's like, all right, I'm going to try out for Blue Man Group right when I was getting ready to graduate college. So went to the auditions, and I was auditioning to be a blue man, not the drum set player. And open call, you just go, and there's a blue man in front of you, but he's not blue. He doesn't regular blue. And they just do sticking patterns, and you got to repeat it back, and no problem at all. So passed the first audition. And then you get the call back that day, and they said, okay, tomorrow show up at this address, and you're going to go to your second audition. You have no idea what it's going to be. You can't prepare or anything. So I went to some apartment. Blue Men, like for instance in Boston, the company has a couple apartments for their musicians or for Blue Men or whatever. So I went to this random apartment. They said, show up at this time. I showed up, sitting on the sidewalk. They handed me a piece of paper and said, okay, now this is the acting audition. And I had never done any acting in my life. And basically it was, all the casting crew from New York. They had video cameras and whatnot. And they said, okay, read this, and then we'll come out and get you. And it's just basically explaining Blue Man and how, who they are and whatnot. And so what I had to do is they called me in, and I had to stare at the camera and this acting coach. And they said, okay, show me what it would look like if this was the best day of your life. But you can't move your face or anything. You can't use your hands. You can't say anything. You are just using your eyes. So I'm like, and like, no, don't move. Like, okay, now the worst day of your life. And I'm like, no, don't. And then so they went through all these scenarios, each individually, and they said, okay, now do them all in a row, and we're not going to say anything. So I'm like, and yeah, so needless to say, I did not pass that audition. And I think about that to this day. I'm actually friends with some Blue Men now and the drum set player now. It's just, that's what happened in life. It's pretty cool. But I think of, man, like, what would have happened if I became a Blue Man? I mean, it would have been really cool, but I definitely would not be doing what I'm doing now, and like, what is there after Blue Man? You know, like, so I don't know. I was really bummed at the time, but now I look back on it and I'm grateful.
Well, things happen for a reason.
Yeah.
We've talked about that
Yeah.
on a few episodes. Things truly happen for a reason. And one of those things that happened for you is Zach Field Drums and Music.
Yep.
Before we get into what that's all about and all your students and your multiple locations, how did you get there? You said you were drumming in high school and college. Where did the drumming start for you?
Good question. I grew up in Maine until about third grade. I had a Muppets drum set that was given to me from my aunt when I was 4. And so just messed around on that, and then ended up moving to Merrimack, Massachusetts in third grade. And then in fourth grade, joined like the elementary school band, you know, playing drums on a drum pad with a really funny teacher. I don't need to go down there. It's just, but it was very interesting. I'll just say it's a really funny story. And he was a clarinet teacher, but we were playing on drum pads, whatever. That's how it worked. And I remember him singing, "Come on, kids, I seen fire and I seen rain." And here we are in like fourth grade, like sing with me. So we're all singing, "I seen fire." And what the heck? And then as the years went on, I heard it was like, oh, it's a James Taylor tune, but I had no idea. So that's how I started drumming. And then
awesome.
I got a used drum set for like $100 from somebody in maybe fourth or fifth grade, and just started playing drums, and the rest was history.
You felt like it was just you'd belong.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, it's just what I did, you know. And it's, you know, as it's, you know, I came from, you know, a divorced family. It is what it is. I'm not complaining about that. It was, you know, that comes with its challenges. And I found that playing as I got older, I realized, oh wow, drumming was not only fun, but it was a nice maybe escape from, you know, whatever was going on. And it was a huge part of my life because of that. I played sports and everything too, but yeah. And then in middle school, I started, you know, joined a punk rock band and started doing that. And then just started, you know, always staying in the school music programs, playing drums, percussion, and then playing in bands on the side all the way until I graduated high school.
That's awesome. And then you went to college for music as well.
Yep, I did. Yep.
That's
My dream was to go to Berkeley, got into Berkeley, realized it was going to be way too expensive. So I was like, all right, I'll go to UMass Lowell. Not wanting to go to UMass Lowell, but it ended up being the best choice that I could have made. It was just incredible program. I owe a lot to everybody who I studied with at UMass and who I am today. You know, I'm so grateful that I went there. And that's, so music performance degree from UMass Lowell.
Wow. So music performance degree.
Yep.
What do you use that degree for?
Nothing.
Okay. All right.
You don't show up to a gig and be like, yo,
Look at my credentials.
No, I started as music ed. My first semester was music education.
So you wanted to teach.
I
You
did.
knew that.
I
Okay.
wanted to be a rock star, but I was always like, all right, well, I'll do music ed, like, just so I have a fallback if I don't become a famous rock star. So I did that, and it wasn't for me, because you have to learn, you're basically learning you're being taught how to be a band teacher. And I wasn't interested in that. I didn't want to spend time learning how to play trumpet, saxophone, I wanted to play drums. And so they try to discourage you to when you want to switch from, like, say, music ed to performance. So some of my, you know, in a good way, they're looking out for you. So my private teachers there were like, you realize how hard this is? They play in the Boston Pops, you know, BSO. It's a very hard life, you know, because they know, like, a performance degree means nothing. So they, and we're making those decisions as, like, 18-year-olds.
Yeah.
And, you know, family members too are like, you sure you want to do this? And it's just like, yes, like, I know. So it's a leap. I'm happy to do. I wanted to focus on percussion. So, yeah.
That's freaking awesome. And then we end up creating this school.
Yep.
I'm sure there's a little bit of a gap in there before you start CFDM.
Yep.
What was that transition?
So the process of that was, I went to Pentucket Regional High School in West Newbury, and I really liked the fine arts director, was just really, really great. And so I was told her, hey, when I graduate college, I want to come back here and do something cool. That will be, like, my goal, my first goal in life. And I got to know the superintendent because I did, like, maybe like the Walk for Hunger when I was in high school, and I walked with him, and I just like talking to people and getting to know people. So I got to know him in high school. And then my last year of college, I got in touch with the school and I said, hey, I want to start a percussion ensemble on Saturday mornings. And they're like, what is that? And I said, just trust me. And because, so they had to get it approved. The superintendent knew me, and I said, let's do this. So I would drive up to West Newbury on a Saturday, and I would have 4 kids in the program. And we had washboards, just not a whole lot of gear. And then over time, it started to get more interest. We would play at one of the performances, like the band concert, and they're like, wow, this is awesome. And then, I ended up being there for about 13 or so years. It grew to a full-time 4th grade through 12th grade program, like a couple hundred kids involved throughout the whole district, just teaching percussion ensembles and teaching drums. Pretty incredible. Salary, benefits. Math teachers were getting cut, but I was still there. It was like crazy, but it was a massive it was just incredible. So all of those students, we didn't do drum set in the school. We did, marimba and snare drums and things like that. And we would travel. We would go to different conferences or percussion festivals throughout the country. It was sweet. I don't have that energy anymore. All of those kids wanted drum set lessons because we didn't do it in school. So after school, I would drive to all these students' houses in the area and teach half-hour lessons. I'd be in kids' basement, this. And it was, but a half-hour lesson turned into 45, 50 because you're talking to the family. So it was incredible. So I then rented a room from a longtime family friend in West Newbury, just one teeny little room that was enough to have 2 drum sets. It was in their house, basement of their house. They had a back driveway, so I had my own entrance. And so all of those students started coming to me. So I was still working in the school district.
How old are you at this point?
20, probably 22 or so.
So just out of college.
Right, fresh out of college.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Living
I had an apartment in Newburyport.
All right, so you're making some money. Yeah, you're doing all right.
Yeah, I was making enough. But rent then was like $1,000.
Yeah.
Shared with.
Those were the days.
Yeah. So I was making enough. Yeah, it was good. And I was also working at the school too. So it was. Yeah, they were crazy days. And then I was gigging every weekend, and I was doing theater gigs, 3-month runs of theater gigs in the theater district. So I would go months. I would do 7 shows. Like Thursday night, Friday night, many on Saturday, many on Sunday, and then just start it all over for 3 months in a row. It was incredible, So then, after that, so I had all these people coming to me, and at that point I'm still tweaking on how to run a business. It was just me, one-man show, and just that's when all my policies and that's when it all started. You just make a mistake. You collect weekly, and then people aren't showing up. And I'm like, well, this is not, they cancel, and I'm not getting paid, so I have to kind of do this. And then, keeping little receipt, it just, that's when the systems started to be created.
At this point, how many students were you teaching?
I was teaching 40 a week.
So that's still a big number.
Yeah, 40-ish a week. That's a lot.
That is.
Yep. Yeah. So then
scheduling and
needed a different spot, so I found a space in West Newbury. It was like a pool house in the back of a yard, but they didn't have a pool, and there wasn't a bathroom. I would have to go into the house or whatever. And so it had 2 rooms in it, and I would have to shovel a pathway through the yard to get to this space. And so that's when I hired my first teacher, because what ended up happening is my schedule was full. And so people would call and say, hey, Zach, can we do lessons with you? I'd be like, I'm full. So then what ended up happening is people just assumed that I was full, stopped calling me. I'm still working at the school this time, still doing everything. So then I ended up hiring a former student of mine, Austin, who I taught at the high school. And then he was at UMass Lowell for music, studying with the same crew that I was. So he was my first person to start working with me. So he would come and teach 1 day a week when I wasn't there, because I would teach at the school late. So that's how that started. Still early days. And then I was like, all right, it's time to get a real space. Time to have a nice bathroom, a waiting room. I don't have to shovel.
No shoveling.
No shoveling. Yeah, I would shovel and then put planks down through the yard to get to this space.
If the student had to pee, I mean, what'd you have to?
You have to go knock on the house and just see. I mean, it was, yeah. And I had my dog. My dog would be running around the yard. It was unbelievable.
That's awesome.
But, you still don't know, for those who build businesses, whatever, I look at where we are now. I was like, I didn't plan on this. So you just don't know, So then from that point on, any questions so far on this?
No,
you keep going.
No, I mean, why don't you just explain what you have now too, real quickly?
Sure.
Like, what is Zach Field's
Yeah.
Drums and Music, and then we'll go back to this in a second.
So currently, Zach Field Drums and Music, we have 2 locations. We're in the Tannery. We have 3 spots in the Tannery, and then we have another studio in Amesbury, as well as a performance space in Amesbury where we do events for renting for events, but we have world-class musicians coming in, and then all our students can perform in there. So that's our latest endeavor with that. We have 30-ish, 32 teachers. We teach everything, all instruments, all ages. We have a little over 600 weekly students.
Wow.
We run rock bands. We have pre-K, 3 to 5-year-old classes. We have group drum set classes. What am I missing?
But it's not just drums, too.
No, it's
from what I
everything.
understand.
Guitar, piano, you name it. All of our teachers, we have the way that we work is, 99% of them either have a music degree or are working towards it. We have a few who don't, and, that's fine. But we have I look at it like a very high quality education. But first and foremost, we're about being mentors for the students. And, we try to hire word of mouth because everybody knows our culture, because there are many great musicians out there, but not all of them can communicate well. And so my first step is I barely look at their resume. I look to see if they're educated first, and then I have a conversation on the phone. And if they can speak well and we can connect well, then I bring them in and we talk to them with our crew and just see what type of people they are first. Because here we are, we're working with kids, and not every student wants to be a professional musician. That's the reality of it, So we want to be there. Like the other day I know I'm going down a rabbit hole here, but this is what we're about. We had a parent say, hey, thank you so much for the, I can say teachers' names. It doesn't matter. Leo is a great teacher. And yesterday, can you just thank him for talking to my son about MCAS? Because whatever he said made a huge difference when he went to school today.
Wow.
That's important to me. Right there. I mean, yeah, we teach music as well, and if they want to become famous professional musicians, we can do that, but it's more than just that. We mentor them, so that's important to us.
Yeah, so we've known each other in a prior life and all of that, and I'll never forget, you were in this networking meeting, and one of the days, and it still strikes me, and getting the goosebumps right now, you read one of these testimonials from one of the parents talking about, and I don't remember it specifically, but it was like a child that was in their shell, and the teacher or the teachers opened this kid up, and it changed their life. And I'm sure you hear it all the time.
All the time. It's what we do.
It's amazing. And I remember sitting in that room, and I don't think there was a dry eye in the room.
No, I remember that too.
Yeah.
And we had to follow up after that and talk about our business and just going, Zach.
Yeah, thanks a lot,
man.
Zach.
Well, it's very hard we get focused on the results and what are we going to get done. We need to get all this done, and you just forget about if you see somebody, that your kid or whatever, coming in and they look upset, they're not thinking about that. So it's okay to be like, hey, and I tell this to my teachers, it's okay if a kid comes in and they look upset, hey man, what's up? You okay? Yeah. Because we may be the only people that they feel comfortable talking about. And it's very important. We need reminders of that.
It's even let's put the instruments down for a second
100%.
and just have a one-to-one.
Yeah.
What's going on?
And we can, if you just want to play some tunes and not be shredding technique and stuff, it's okay. It's a very long process. And I think that goes for any business owner developing relationships. Sometimes you just got to put your goals aside and just be a human being.
It's such a novel concept. Ben, you were talking about it a while ago about why AFA is a little different. It's because we treat people like people.
Yeah.
It's
when I was looking for more technicians along that path, it was, let me talk to this person. I don't care about your skills at the moment. Let me
Yeah.
have a one-to-one on this with this person. Make sure they're intelligent enough to have a conversation, because a lot of my clients are going to be asking my technicians questions. So I want to make sure that they'll feel comfortable and things like that. With 32 teachers or so, and the countless amount that you've also interviewed and you've gone through, that blows my mind. Some of the interview processes that you might do because of the ones that could go wrong, and you're with kids in a room closed off. How, we'll go back in a minute. We'll go back to your history again, coming up through the thing. But now you're at a process where, what is your process for interviewing some of these teachers to make sure that they're safe and we're good to go with kids?
Great question. Up until the pandemic hit, like, I'd said earlier, we had hired word of mouth. Guitar teacher teaches with us. Hey, Josh, we're looking for a piano teacher. That person knows who they want to work with. They have hopefully enough respect for me and the business that they know what we're looking for. And then they say, hey, we've got this, I get recommend. And I started offering like a finder fee. Hey, if you send somebody to us, and we hire them, I'll give you $100. And it just, so we did that for years. But then, as we know, pandemic hit and everybody disappeared. And it's like, where are these people? So now we're out of our network. And we also, there's only so many qualified people within a certain mile radius, right? So then that within your immediate network. So you have to. So then we started going to Indeed and all those places. And
That's a fun place to be. I'm dealing with it now.
It's interesting, you know, and I'm a sensitive person at times, and I feel horrible like not giving every single person the time, so I'm like, and I realize, man, some of these are just a complete waste of time. They're not qualified. I don't need to be making these phone calls and doing other. So I got better at rejecting them just from what I could see. But so the process, we query everybody, we 100%, but that's great, but it's still, I don't know, that's still a flawed system. It's like, I don't know. So we do that. There's only so much you can do, so we query them. We, if they show up, musicians are interesting people. I can say that because I'm one of them, So like right away, if they are not good at communicating right away, like in a timely manner when I'm trying to get them in, that's a red flag to me. If then we have an in-person or even like a phone call, and I can tell on the phone call usually if it's like working or not. If we get to the next step, we do an in-person meeting. If they're 1 minute late, huge red flag.
Oh, yeah.
Unless it's like something horrible, you know what I mean? But no, that's not a great way to start. It's unacceptable.
Especially with you. You've got a schedule to keep. All of your teachers have to show up on time, maybe early. That'd be a crazy thing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I'm a stickler with that. And we just go down the process. And then once we find that, once I eventually get to their education, I've already decided that, okay, they're good people. They have experience working with kids throughout, maybe when they're growing up, maybe they've worked in daycares, maybe they've taught before, just, maybe they have siblings, I really get personal with them. I even ask them like, hey, like, what would your friends say about you as a person? And that really throws people off. They're like, well, and I said, what are you working on yourself personally? Like, what do you try to improve? And most people, they like to hear that. Sometimes it stumps them, but I like to see that too, because I don't know, what kind of person is not always trying to better themselves? So those are like, I don't know if those are normal questions or not. It's just what I do. Then when we get to the education part, it's, they probably have a music degree. And then from that point forward, if they're coming in to replace a teacher who might be leaving, we do like have this teacher sit in on a week of lessons. And so they can, the current teacher can introduce the new teacher. They talk each other up. They get to all meet, and everybody feels good. And it is pretty much a flawless system.
What I'm so impressed about is small business owners. First of all, resources are tough. Time, money, all of that. In the hiring process, a lot of people are like, you know what? I'm going to have that one interview, and that's going to be make or break after I look at a resume, which I hate resumes too. I don't even like looking at
or
them
references, like who's going to put
Zach was awful. I'm glad you called me.
Yeah, what a joke.
Yeah. But the fact that you're hitting so many touch points, you were talking, you're running the quarry. Yep. Obviously very important.
Yep.
But you're having an initial phone call, maybe another electronic conversation. Yep. And then you're having 2, 3, 4 points of contact before ever meeting them in person. More small businesses have to do that because you need to, they say hire fast, fire fast, but no. You hire slow, man.
Yeah, and I bring in my crew. We have an office crew, so when I vet them and they're coming in, I have them come in and do the interview, and they'll ask them the same questions, but that way see if I'm missing anything. The biggest mistakes that I have made is when I've hired out of desperation.
Yes.
Always.
And you can convince yourself. You're like, oh, okay, and then it doesn't work out, and you're like, damn it, like I freaking knew it. I didn't follow my gut. It's better off to wait. Don't hire out of desperation. So maybe you lose a little business. You have a few unhappy customers right away. It's better than you bring in somebody who doesn't work out and it's a nightmare, because then your customers lose all trust and faith in you.
Because you're onboarding them once and then, now I have another teacher, now another teacher.
I've heard the hire slow, fire fast.
Yes.
Yeah.
There's a problem, you got to take care of it, but hire slow. Have you ever taken any of them out to dinner and meet their significant others and try and kind of have that dinner together just to see how they are? Because again, your students are everything.
Never have.
Yeah.
I
do not right away. You have to go through multiple interviews and then maybe have dinner one night with your wife and maybe another teacher, whatever. And sometimes that works.
That's a good idea.
It's funny you mentioned, I was speaking to an insurance agent down in Florida. This was like, I don't know, maybe a month ago now. And he turned around and we were talking about hiring process. And he does just that. That's part of it. He goes, because the biggest thing I want to see is the spouse. Which at first I'm like, all right, why the spouse? Because the spouse is now part of that team too.
Totally.
And if they're going to be feeling stressed in this situation and how's my wife going to treat me or how's my husband or boyfriend, whatever it is, that's going to be brought to work too. Yeah. So there's a lot of that goes in. And I said the same thing to him. It's like, man, I got to start doing that.
That's good. Yeah.
I haven't done it yet, but
you don't want to go too early because you sit down with somebody and you're just like, this ain't going to work. You still get the whole dinner to go and you're paying
check, please.
Yeah. Plus I'm already kind of maxing out my meals and entertainment expenses for the
year. So you're talking about all the good stuff so far right now.
Yep.
Business is growing.
Yep.
You got a new performance space. We got some other things we'll be talking about too on the software gig.
Yep.
But there's a lot of struggles starting that business.
Absolutely.
Going along. Without digging in too deep about any individuals or anything, what's some things that you've had to fight through and now you're better because of that struggle?
Yeah, you look back, you just don't know. I look when I got ready to move my business out of the pool house that didn't have a pool, which was amazing. I mean, there was
or a bathroom.
Yeah. And moved to the industrial park, which was probably in 2008. That was real. That was like my first. It was a commercial building, and anybody who's starting a business, I would recommend this. I'll talk about my mistake and how I changed it. So what I would do is I would work through all the numbers in my head. I had all the numbers worked out. I had constantly looking at spaces everywhere. And then I'm like, okay, I'd figured it out. I figured if I raised my rates just this much, it would cover my rent increase. And then, I would do this and whatever. I had it all figured out. So then I went to my wife. I said, hey, Sasha, I'm going to move the business to the industrial park in Newburyport. Oh, what? Where's this? What? Yeah. The rent's gonna, okay, well, how are we gonna afford this? What, what's the rent? Oh, I said it's gonna pretty much triple the rent, And she's like, oh. And what ended up happening, it turned into a fight. I felt like, oh, you don't trust me, as a business owner. And then what I realized is that was on me because I had already worked through all of those problems and everything to get to that point. I just went right to her with the end, and so I realized, and it took a little while, and I did have to prove myself, because I hadn't really, this was like a big leap. So my recommendation is this for people who run into this, and this is what I started presenting these, because, I've grown and built all these things over the years. I would present it to her with all the facts. I wouldn't say this. I said, hey, here's what I'm thinking. Here, almost like, I'd have a spreadsheet. I have numbers, because she's part of the team. At this point, she was working on her own. Now she is a part of my business, and we can talk about that. But it's like you are. Like, I was able, even though she wasn't working with me these years, she was working at Mass General Hospital, she carried the health benefits. We had her salary. So she is a part of growing that business, and I owed it to her to break it all down and not just throw it at her when I've already figured it out.
We're done. Here it is.
And I think that's a great, for the small business owner who's trying to build, like, you got to bring along your significant other for the ride, even if they don't really want it, because you can't just toss it at them.
Mm-hmm. And so, like you said, she wasn't in the business at that point.
Yep.
In the journey of the business, when did she join? When did she come
joined
on board?
In 2019. We decided, let's open up another spot in Amesbury. She was commuting to Boston. We were paying a lot for health insurance because she cut down to part-time because we had a kid. And we're like, the health insurance was holding us back, but we didn't really know what that meant. Oh, I don't want to pay out of pocket for health insurance. Oh, what does this mean? And we were just like, all right, just keep doing this commute to Boston. And then we're like, what does this mean to pay for your own health insurance? So we went down the rabbit hole and we did the numbers, and we're like, oh, we could do this, pay this. We could have a better quality of life, and we could have someone else in the business who, has the same amount. What am I trying to say? Is another owner, essentially. No one really cares more than the owners, You're
both invested in this.
So we made that leap in 2019, opened up Amesbury, pay for our own health insurance, which it stinks. We pay a fortune. We don't pay a fortune, we pay a lot, and it barely covers anything, but whatever, I'm just being honest here.
Yeah.
I do know.
But, it's like we have a 10-year-old daughter now, and we, the quality of life was really great because we can see her when we want. So but the pandemic hit, and that was a real scary thing for us because we had just opened our second spot, dumped a ton of money into it. We didn't have Sasha's salary anymore. And then we were also learning how to work together as husband and wife, which is tricky as, in itself. But we did it.
So you went to this commercial space in Newburyport. Let's go back one more time. And you've got this commercial space. What'd you do?
Started hiring some more people. I remember not getting paid so I could buy a bunch of music stands and because I was like, I got to start some little groups. But I didn't have enough money to do it. So I was like, okay, that paycheck this week is going to have to go towards investing into some gear. So I did that. Or I had this vintage Rogers 1960 drum set that was like just unbelievable.
That was the drum set I got from the attic.
Oh, for
It
real?
was a 1970s Rogers kit that I sold later on for $800.
Yeah, like this kit is worth thousands and thousands
This is
of
not.
dollars.
Yeah, but wow.
And I was like, okay, well, I am going to sell that, and I'm going to buy 2 drum sets with it so I can outfit an entire room. It kills me to sell it, but I need to be thinking ahead, way ahead. So that helped me outfit that. And so I just started growing like that. So at this point, I left Pentucket, the school, and I was just full in, which was a whole big leap, but it made sense. I would go to this conference every year, Percussive Art Society International Convention, world's largest drum conference. And going into it, I said, I got to find a way to do some ensemble type of things. What am I going to do? I said, how about steel drums? I'd never played steel drums, but I thought they were cool. So I went to a local school, saw the steel drums. I'm like, this is going to be it. I'm going to do this. Went to this conference. I did tell my wife that I was looking into this. I met some steel pan makers there, and I really like this guy from Philly, #1 steel pan maker in the country. So this was like in 2010. And I said, let's do this. Let's buy a whole set of steel drums, $20-something thousand.
Wow.
I didn't have the money, so I was going to go to a bank to try to get a loan, which is really hard. But luckily, my father-in-law, which I've worked for everything, he said, don't. I have some money here. Why pay interest? And I said, no. I work for everything. I can't do it. And he said, don't be stupid. Like, please don't. I want to do this for you. And so he lent me the $20-something thousand, and I just paid him monthly back. I paid it all back. I insisted. I took a risk, and 3 months later, all the pans were made. We rented a van and met this guy, brought them all back to the studio, and I said, okay, I'll learn how to play this pan, and my other teachers learned some others, so we created a steel drum band that we go out and play gigs at like Fenway and corporate events. And then all of our students started playing steel pans. It really worked out. But then I had to get a van and whatever. I could go all day on this. So then I realized I was in the industrial park. The owner of the building was a woodworker. And it just wasn't working out. Let's just say that. So started looking around for more spaces. Found the tannery. The space wasn't ideal, but the owner there is awesome, David Hall. And he worked some magic, and we built some other rooms and blah, 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 and moved into the tannery in 2010. Just drums still. And then down the hall, there was this place called the Musical Suite that had been there for like 20 or so years, and they had taught everything but drums. So a few years into being in the tannery, I approached the owner, and I just said, hey, when the time comes that you're ready to, move on, I'd love to carry on your legacy. Bang. Awesome. Let's do it. She was flattered. Year of negotiating, which is very challenging to do. Took over the Musical Suite. And that was very challenging because it was two different cultures coming together. I ran a different business than there, so I had to, I went from everybody knowing me, being all drummers, people I know, to now we just took on probably 10, 12 more teachers. And they didn't know me, had to gain my trust. And I wasn't used to people maybe not liking me or just not trusting me. And that was like a killer. That was like, I'm like, what did I do here? I had to recreate all of our systems, had to bring in some office staff, which I never had to do before. So you had to create these systems. I'm just kind of flying through the whole.
Yeah, no. That's a huge deal. Acquisitions of other businesses and merging and all that stuff. That's something insurance agencies, we deal with it all the time.
Yep.
Most other small businesses don't have to deal with that.
Yeah.
And so there were a lot of hurdles and bumps in the road. Were you able to retain all of the previous teachers?
No, and I didn't want to.
Okay. And that's, you wanted the business and what came along with it, but not necessarily the actual business.
No, I wanted the name. I wanted the space that was down the hall there. And there were a few like leading up to it. I knew most of the teachers there, but there were a few people who I knew just like were not going to make it right off the bat. Like, and I said, hey, I can't go in and fire this person and this person because that's not good. I said, you need to do this before I take over. Before you even tell anybody, you need to fire this person and this person.
That's tough for an owner because it's kind of like a piece of them. And like, what do you mean you're taking over and you want me to fire them?
Yeah, and she did. Luckily, she got rid of a few. And then I just went in and it was just a different business systematically than what I run, which is, I'm not saying what's good or bad, but I went in and had to I still have some of the teachers there.
Awesome.
Most of them just don't, they know, like when I make a phone call, like, hey, and they're like, is this the fired call? I'm like, yeah, I was just going to say, why don't you at least come in? We could talk in person. So, it's like, it was tough.
Now, with that prior owner, obviously she was on board because she was willing to do that. Was that part of the negotiations of, if there's somebody I don't want, it's on you to take care of this? Or was it a discussion as the transition was going on?
This was not a formal something part of the negotiating. It was like she wanted this to succeed, right? And I let her know that, okay, I know this teacher. I know we have some of the same students because they do drums here. I said, it's not going to work here. Like, can you do this? And she's like, yeah, I agree. So she had no problem with it. They should have been gone a long time ago. It was, and she just did. It was really nice. But then once if I had to do the deal again, I would have done some things differently. There was some working capital. Want me to go down this hole? Or
yes.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
I know. And it's like,
yeah.
I am a musician. Isn't this crazy? Like, how many musicians do you know are like...
Working capital. Mergers and acquisitions.
What the heck happening? And for the record, I don't have a business degree or anything. And people ask me that. My biggest thing is I have mentors in my life. I've learned all of this through mentors, like people who know more than me. A student's dad who like really liked me, and I'd pick his brain, and I'm like in my early 20s, and he's just taking me in. It brought him a lot of satisfaction. Taught me how to do QuickBooks, and we became buddies. And all of a sudden, one day, early 20s here, a laptop just shows up on my doorstep because I didn't have a computer. Yeah. And I'm like, what the heck is this? him and his company knew I needed a laptop.
Wow.
That's awesome.
You know, so I don't do things. I never seek that out. But that is like, it's very tough as a business owner. We think we know it all, and we don't. Like, you know, like I'm messing around the other day with stuff in Stripe to try to create these payment things, and I'm getting frustrated. And I said, stop. I could be using my time better somewhere else. Someone else knows this, and so that is like when we did the acquisition of the musical suite. I didn't know how to value a company. You know, I had a student who, like, this is like, he's a master. So I just asked him, bang, he did everything for me. Just was like, yeah, he just wanted to see me succeed. Once again, I don't look for things for free, but I also tap my network, you know, and I think that's so important. So he did the whole thing. If I were to do this deal again, there was working capital. And for those, I'll just explain what working capital is. Is that okay?
Go for it. Yeah.
You know, and so for the way that the business was being run, and this could be for any business, and it's a service-based business, they would have semesters. So X amount of dollars were charged or collected at the beginning of a semester. So for like 16 lessons, let's just say, you know, a lot of money for all the students. You pay in advance, blah, blah. Well, I took over as of January 1st. You know, we thought that was just going to be a clean break beginning of the year. However, there was still a month left of the semester that they've already paid for. And so that was a big chunk of working capital. Now, as we all know in small businesses, right, like cash flow could be an issue. Maybe you have some things come up and you've got that money that was in, but then you just had all these things, or you're trying to grow, so you're investing, and next thing you know, at the end of whatever, you may not have that working capital in the bank. It may come in, or you may borrow from here. So there was still money that was owed from people. I took the business over. Doesn't matter. I still need to pay out all those teachers for January. They had to give me a chunk of money of that working capital, but it all wasn't there. So there was, and then their bookkeeper had to come in, and part of my responsibility with this bookkeeper was to hunt down money for people who owed, so then we could pay back the previous owner the money they gave me for working capital.
Wow.
It is what it is.
That's a lot to deal with.
That's what it was. In hindsight, I'm like, man, we should just waited until like the end of January and closed it then, you know?
Yeah.
I don't know. But I was like, man, what have I done? What have I done here?
One of your biggest points was sometimes you got to find that person. I read a fantastic book called Who, Not How. So how are we going to get this done? That's not necessarily the question you should ask. Who can I help can help me to get this done?
Exactly.
And it sounds like that's what you got. You got a bunch of who's that could help you out.
Yep. We help each other out.
Right.
You know?
And through the years, I think a small business, you seek out those mentors, like you've said. And the who's that are out there is so important.
It is.
I just love the fact that this acquisition turned you into the hatchet man, the collection agency.
Oh, yeah.
But what that did is it paid your tuition in your education. Is what it did. So now you know that stuff. So when you start acquiring other businesses now, you know what to look out for. And
Never again.
Yeah. Never again?
I'm ready. As you're watching this, if anybody's ready to, I'm ready if you want it. You can acquire me. Just kidding.
Yeah. I had to buy a business. My business I bought from the old owner. I had to go through some of that, but you went through a lot more than I did.
Well, it's also tough because you as the business owner you always feel like it's worth way more than what it really is. It's just
What's
part
the
of
EBITDA?
Yeah.
What's the EBITDA? I had to go over that with SCORE.
Yeah.
I had to do the SCORE program that the town offers, which is fantastic. Did you ever check out SCORE? So SCORE is John, you know what SCORE is, right?
I've heard of it. I don't know enough about it.
You've got business owners, small business owners that help the community by having free meetings with business owners or prospective business owners, and they'll literally sit down with you for an hour and talk about how QuickBooks works, what a profit and loss statement is, what a balance sheet, because they've all been in the business before, and they can guide you along those ways. It was amazing. So
that's awesome.
That's one more opportunity.
Is that a community program or?
Yes.
It is.
It is.
Like some of the chambers have it, right? Like
Something like that,
chamber,
I forget how I think I did a SCORE, SCORE. It stands for whatever. And through that, Newburyport had like a chapter, I guess, or whatever. And it was like 3 people in a room. And I'm this mechanic that walks in that wants to buy my owner out. And they kind of helped out. So, yeah, great opportunity there. So going back to Zach, because it's not about me, it's about Zach.
That's all right.
You bought this business.
Yep.
Now you've got 2 spots in that tannery.
Yep.
And what'd you do from there?
Well, we needed an office space because there was a little office space in the musical suite that I bought, but I turned them, as we grew and organized and did whatever, we added more rooms and started doing, So I think we started with 6 rooms or 7 rooms in there, and now there are 11 or 12 down there. So so we had to get another office space, which is cool. Brought on office staff and just said, hey, we have no idea what is really needed in this position, but come on in. So we did that. Got software. The more people you bring on and the bigger you get, your systems change. Then you actually have to become much more systematic as you grow, and then those systems are just morphing forever, as we all know, and that's it. You will sink if you do not have systems in place as a business owner, period.
Amen.
And for those people, like during the pandemic, I'll just throw you all under the bus. If you didn't get any of your PPP, if you didn't get, sorry, I'm going to be mean here. If you didn't get whatever, it's on you.
Yeah.
Because you did not have your books in place, you did not have your systems in place, and that, I'm sorry, you can hit stop if you're listening to this right now, but that's a fact. I'm like, I had everything ready to go, like 100% up to date, ready to go. I went for it, and so that's just a perfect example, like things like that, or even like with your employees too. You need to, like, you have to have files for every single employee. You just can't, this person screwed up, was late this day. Okay. Because what ends up happening, you're going to forget about all these things. You need to write down. So when the time comes, you have to sit down and be like, you're not going to remember it all, but if you have it all there, like that is just a simple system in place that is not feelings, it's facts.
You had your thumb on the pulse of the business. I mean, everything.
You have to.
Yeah, you absolutely have to, especially when you come up the way you did without any money.
Yeah. Yes.
Not a lot of things were given to you, so you have to, and you appreciate things a lot more when you come up that way.
Exactly. Yeah, and then when you're dealing with employees or teachers, you've got to be a real human being with them and have these tough conversations with them. Even if, like, I think of some people who I didn't think maybe were going to work out, but I had to put my personal feelings aside. I was like, I don't need to be friends with this person. Did they serve a value to the business and to our clients? And are they doing a good job? And if they're not doing a good job, rather than right away looking at them and being like, they're doing a horrible job, you kind of have to, I go within and be like, okay, what could I do better first? Am I not giving this person, my business, they're music students. Am I giving this person the wrong type of student? And they're failing because of that. And that has happened before. I almost let someone go because they were losing all these students. And then I realized, wait a minute. No, they need to have like these type of people. I don't want to go into too many details because I don't want to call people out.
Right.
And then that was my fault. Right. So I don't know. So I like to say, if I have to let somebody go, I need to be able to sleep at night, and I need to make sure that I've done everything all along the way. And whatever they feel about me at the end of that, that's on them. But I need to, mentor and have conversations and kind of give a heads up, like, hey, look, you've lost all these students, or hey, man, you've showed up these times late. We can't continue to do that.
And whenever I was in that position, I wanted to look at it as I'm doing them a favor too.
Yes.
It's never going to work out in this situation. It's better to do it now and get them to their next opportunity sooner rather than later.
Yep. It hurts, but you got to do it.
You're taking responsibility too, which is amazing. As an owner, you're taking responsibility of how this employee has been.
Yep.
And is it more training they need?
Yep.
Is it anything that they need is very important.
Exactly.
Good for you.
Yep.
So you've brought up the challenges of COVID and the pandemic and all of that, but there's still challenges going on right now.
Absolutely.
Financial right now is crazy. Every household is struggling right now. And before we got on, you were talking about a few of those things. And where's the balance of I need to make changes within my business, but how's that going to impact my customer base? Can you talk us through some of that, what you're going through now?
Yeah, so I take the blame. It's like when you're building a business, you need to be cautious of your fees. If they're too high, people aren't going to want to come to you and they're looking elsewhere. If they're, and you can also just get kind of set in your ways and I'll just say, we had our half hour rates at one rate for like 8 years. We didn't raise them, but guess what? Everything else is constantly going up. Your rent, your utilities, and then it was, and just like head down, like growing the business, and then I'm like, oh man, we got to raise the rates. Oh, we can't. Pandemic hit. You don't want to raise the rates during pandemic. Pandemic goes through, so I'm like, okay, finally get through the pandemic. We got to raise our rates because I want to pay our teachers more, and we need to. You can't operate at a loss, right? And so we raised it up. We gave some to the teachers, awesome, and some to the business. That doesn't. It's not like.
Can I interrupt for a quick second? Sure. When you say raise rates, you're only talking like $5, $10.
$4.
$4.
We went up $4, and so we are still way under. If you go to like any other music schools around, our prices are way under. And that's on me. I should have. I'll take the blame for that. X amount of years ago, I should have, but you can't think of everything, but I'll take the blame for it. That's all right. I should have stayed on top of it and kind of bumped it up gradually. I didn't. So here we are now, pandemic. I raised it up a little bit, giving the teachers a little more money, which is awesome. Some more money is coming in to help with cash flow. It's not like it's going in my pocket, and that's what people don't see, right? And we made it very clear when we raised the rates to all of our customers, like, hey, this is what we're doing. We want to pay your teachers more. No problems whatsoever. Yeah. Here we are, a year later, we've raised our rates. Just had my appointment with my accountant, and we just really went through all the numbers, and it's like, man, we need to generate more revenue to not to go in my pocket, but to cover the increases of utilities and rent expenses and you name it.
Damn insurance.
I mean, everything, right? So now we're like, all right, we just raised them last year. We got to do it again. Like I said, we need to be way up, but I can't.
You can't pull that trigger all at once because then it's a punch to those.
Yep. So we're going to do it. I mean, in September we'll raise it up again, and that will go towards helping cover expenses. A couple bucks really makes a big difference. And I look at it now. We're offering. I was talking to a mentor, and I was like, "You're offering a premium product now." If we got to say that, but it's like. I don't know. It is what it is. We got to make a bit. It's okay to run a business and make some money. But it's once again, it's not like I'm going to go buy a vacation house. Like I wish. It's just like the cash has to be there to keep the business open.
You've got a brick and mortar store, pretty much, right? Like I've got a brick and mortar place, and that's rent. That's electricity. Yeah. That's expenses of waiting down the road. Is the furnace going to be okay and stuff like that? Yep. You have to make a profit as a business. You have to. So
that's a struggle, and then we just opened this performance venue, and we're dealing with fire code things with the city that you just never really knew about, and it's like, I'm on this earth to play drums, right? And to teach. How much of that do you think I'm doing right now?
Working capital, EBITDA.
Yeah, so we're just dealing with inspections and having to put in new strobes and just things like that with the city that nobody knows about. Nobody, you only know if you're a business owner that you're having to do all this stuff. And I'm not complaining, but when I have, people come into my office and my eyes are blood red, and it's like they want to talk and chat and I just look exhausted. Those are the reasons why, but I don't feel the need to share that with them. You know what I mean? So it's...
Mm-hmm. Do you have a network where you can actually kind of release? Do you have a group of... I know you got your mentors. Yep. Do you have like a group of, whether it's friends or other business owners, where you can just kind of sit back and say, oh, you wouldn't believe this?
Yeah, I've got a few.
Because I think it's super important.
It is.
To be able to release.
Not enough. I could definitely use more.
Yeah. I want the legacy.
I don't want to go there just yet.
I don't want to go there yet.
Not
either,
yet.
But I want it.
You can
I
grab
want to
it.
set it up.
You can set it up.
Because I think it's super important.
But
You just wait.
So, Zach, I think one important thing, it's what's coming down the pike with you. You've been talking about the performance space, and I've heard nothing but good things about that, too. We were in there when it was first built out, and that's awesome. But the mayor, she was touting it at one breakfast or lunch I was at. So congrats on that.
Thank you.
But there's bigger things. Talk to us about, can I say the name Drum Room?
Oh, yeah.
I can say that.
Yeah, Drum Room.
Talk to us about Drum Room.
Sure.
What's that all about?
Drum Room is a teaching software that I've been building out for, 3-ish years. I keep saying 3 years, so maybe it's been longer. And it's a method that we've used with colors and reading notation that we've used with dry erase markers for 20-something years that's what we use. I don't know if we created it or whatever, but I don't know. It just seemed to work. So then I thought, maybe I'll write a book. I was like, and then I had a buddy of mine who's a designer. He's like, you should just do software. It was like right at the beginning of the pandemic when everything went like remote. And I'm like, I hit up a former student of mine who's an adult now. I know it's hard to believe I've been teaching that long. But I taught him 4th grade all the way through 12th grade. Great drummer. He went to school for like a semester for music and is like, screw this, went to school for engineering. And then I'd hit him up when he was finishing up at Northeastern. And I said, hey, man, Luca, I feel like you know how to code. And he's like, kind of, yeah. I said, all right, I have an idea. You know how I think. You know this method. I want to create this software. And I have no idea how to develop, to code, or anything. I just have this idea. So all right, so we worked out an agreement where I pay him an hourly rate. He'd let me know when he hit 20 hours, and I'd send him the money. So I've been investing in that. So, and now we're like three-ish years ahead, and there's all these launches. And once again, I have mentors who just love to help, and then I give them free drum lessons who have done this before. So yeah, it's called Drum Room. We've been using it in-house with all of our students and teachers. We develop it a little, we use it, we tweak it, get feedback, and just it is developed. I think it's insane.
It sounds insane.
It's great.
It is great. I have seen it.
Thank you.
I've used it, and it's really, really awesome. What is the goal? What do you want to do with this? Who's your target market?
So the goal is by the end of this month, we will have it set up where we can accept payment. We've got like 200 or so students and teachers using it right now, which is good for the beta. We'll have a subscription base starting at the end of the month, 2-week trial. The teacher will pay a monthly fee, and a student can use it for free if they're paired up with the teacher. So they pair with the teacher. The teacher can share their grooves and their assignments and all this stuff. So it's a live teaching tool, and the student can use it at home. So that's going to be the model. It's just one tier for right now, and then eventually we'll have different tiers. But we just got to see if people really want to pay for it. And yeah, and I don't know what's going to happen with it. I go back and forth, when the days, it's a grind. It's completely different doing this than anything else because I don't know how to fix a bug, and it's very hard for me to wait. I have to have my developer fix it, and he may not be able to do it right away. And within my current business, if somebody's unhappy, a parent's unhappy, whatever, I'm like, get on the phone. Hey, it's going to be okay. I'll refund you. Bang. So I've learned a lot. And I've also learned that I may not know how to code or develop, but I can still run a business. I can still manage people. And that was, I had very low self-esteem about that because I just felt like, I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know what I'm doing here. And then I had some people saying, you do.
Yeah.
You do. Oh, shoot. You do know what you're doing. And then I started realizing I could still sense when someone's burnt out. I know when to have the meeting. So that's where we're at. I don't know, maybe someday one of the big Zildjians or Ludwigs or anything maybe decide they want to pair it with, I don't know. I just stopped thinking about what the end result is going to be because if you're just thinking, I'm not doing this to make tons of money. If I happen to, that's great. But the second you start to think that way, I'm going to create this so I can make all this money. I don't know. It's just then your intentions are just all whacked out. I feel passionate about it. I'm learning a lot. It's a freaking grind. I wish I sometimes never did it, but yeah, so we'll see.
That's why you're in this business, because you loved to teach.
Yeah, and
music,
it works. It's
and it was
awesome.
music.
Yeah.
So, and one last follow-up question. I mean, what again? Going to the target market for this software, you're going to music teachers that drum music.
Drum teachers, the lone wolf, I call them, which is just when I was just me in the woods teaching.
Yep.
Then you have your music school owner, like myself now. And then schools and universities, you can use it in classrooms as well for teaching rhythms. And
Are you on the phones? Are you on the internet? I mean, are you selling?
Right now, I am just grinding, and it's still testing. We're still almost done with all of our assets with our new website, all of our videos, and that will be easier to share it. But I had been on phone calls, on emails, social media, and it's crushing because you reach out to 20 people.
Yeah.
And only like one person, two people get back to you, and then you're like, man, my product sucks. Like, they don't like this. And then when you show it to them, and then I'm looking at, see if they've created an account. I'm just waiting, and they don't create an account. I'm like, oh, it's kind of like selling insurance,
Yeah, just like it. But you were talking about earlier the trade show or the convention of percussion.
Yep.
When are you going to show it live? Because that's the power behind it is seeing something like this live. Trying to sell it over the phone or over even probably video through email. That's probably tough.
Yep.
When are you going?
I'll do the next step is we have Dave DeCenzo, a famous drummer, coming in who plays with like Duran Duran and Josh Groban. He teaches at Berkeley. He's doing a clinic at the Space at the end of April.
Nice.
And by default, probably 50 drummers and drum teachers from all over are going to be coming to this. They bought tickets already. I can, so I'm like, all right. Drum Room presents Dave DeCenzo. Yes. So, they're like mini launches everywhere. So now when they show up at the end of April to our space, I'll give them all a QR code. And, I never feel the need to sell something. It needs to sell itself. Hey, try this out. Yeah. And then like that, maybe eventually, but I don't know. It's also like, I have to be able to handle, let's say we go to like a big conference and,
10,000 orders and the bugs. And you were mentioning that earlier about you have to go to the developer, who still sounds like it's doing it as a favor. He's not. It's not a favor. Now it's
real money.
Well, I don't mean it, but it's not his full-time job. It's a side gig for them.
Yep.
Of when does it come to the point of, all right, when do I have to invest in maybe a full-time or even a part-time?
Exactly. We went to Upwork and we hired somebody, overseas. Mm-hmm. So we've got this guy on. He's helping out with some of the bugs while Luca is my main developer for new features. But those are the things that keep me up at night. It's like what's next? I don't know these things. I have people who can guide me, and we'll see.
You know what you need?
Yeah.
Podcast. Just saying. It'd be good.
Oh my gosh. It's cool. This is it though. I'm not doing anything. I'm not building things anymore. I have enough
stuff on your plate.
I'm done. This is good.
So my question of legacy. So Zach, you've done a lot. You've got a lot of things going on.
Yep.
Let's say, let's take a serious note for 1 second. Mm-hmm. Let's say you're driving home from here, the studio's here, today, and you don't have another opportunity to talk to your wife, your child, your students, your teachers, whatever. You died on the way home. Yep. Sorry to say. Trying not to bring this down too much, but
reality.
Let's say that you didn't have another chance to lay out what is your legacy. What do you want people to know about you, especially your family, your friends, and those things? And you can take a second to think about whatever you need to.
I don't need to think about it.
What do you got?
First of all, I left my house this morning with a hug and a kiss, and I love you to my wife. Same thing with my daughter. So think twice before you leave mad, because you never know. For all you business owners out there, no matter how crazy it is, your family is everything to you. And I won't go down that hole. My legacy, and I feel confident in that I'm doing this. It's not a conceited thing, but like I don't lead with how much money can I make. I've never done anything in my career where it's like, I'm going to do this so I can make a ton of money. I do what I do because I love it. I took my passion, my escape from life when I was a kid, and I'm like, I want to wake up every day and love what I do. What does that mean? What does that How's that going to look? I have no idea. It came with tons of risks and unknowns, but even though, I still wake up early. So my legacy is that I've taught hundreds and hundreds of students throughout my career, and it's been about life. It's been about mentoring, and it's not about how much money that I've made or I can leave to anybody, because I've led a life of honesty and giving my whole self to anybody that I'm with, And so my legacy is that, like, just being real and being there for my students, my family, and my students, and just everybody. That's what it is. And everything comes. I find I need to find gratitude. I need to find satisfaction in my work. Some people don't. They can go punch the clock and be okay. That's not me. I just give it all, and I just feel like if you do that, everything, it just happens.
That's fantastic.
Unbelievable.
Thank you.
I wish I could leave it there, but I have another question for you.
Yeah.
You've been talking a lot about mentors.
Yeah.
Are there any mentors that you want to recognize? Say this person has, and if
Yes.
not, that's okay too,
Yes.
because you don't want to leave people out too.
If I leave them out, they know I don't do it intentionally.
Yeah.
You want me to just go for it?
Go for it.
All right. So my initial mentor was Kevin Crew. He's based out of Merrimack, owned a company, Tech and Type. He was incredible. We even kind of joke around. He'll call me son. We don't see each other as much nowadays, but it's okay. That's what happens. Nothing, and unbelievable, like what he has done for me. Kevin Crew as a business mentor. This guy, Frank Cavallaro, local guy. He works for a bunch of big companies. Just awesome. David Hall from the Tannery, anytime I go to him with little things, and I just think, man, if anytime I'm feeling super stressed, I think of David Hall, and I'm like, if he can do it, like, I don't have nearly as many things as him, so I'll go to him and be like, hey, man, So those are a few mentors of mine. I'm definitely leaving some out. I have someone now, Scott Ewell, who is a developer, has worked for Bose and does coding and things like that. I meet with him every single Monday to talk about coding, and he's just kind of helping me navigate this world. And in return, I give him drum lessons on Thursdays. I see him in a little while. So Scott's huge right now. I don't know, but it's our duty too to pay it forward.
Awesome. So if anybody out there wants to reach out to you for lessons,
Sure.
or just to learn more from you,
Please.
how do they reach out to you? What's the best way?
Easiest way is just go to Zach Field Drums and Music, our website, and that you can call. You'll get my extension. You can hear it in the prompts, obviously, or just shoot an email, and the email will get to me. I'll talk to anybody. I made it clear. I even talked to people on Indeed who have zero qualifications. So,
you've got such a great personality.
thank you.
It's pretty obvious why there's so many people that want to help you, because you've got an attractive personality. It's very easy to talk to you, and I think that's part of your success is because you have that personality. So good for you. Kudos to you. I love your legacy and how pure. Every time I talk to Zach, he makes me laugh, but he's just very honest too. Like you don't screw around too. And that's what I really respect that about you is you're going to say, and we haven't had business relations too much to actually have to worry about this is how it is. But I really respect that. And that's amazing. And I can see why he got to where he is because of how he, presents things, maybe not with his wife every single time, but there's sometimes Zach is really just an amazing person. So thank you so much for being a friend, but also what you're doing for our students, our just everybody in the music industry. And I am going to call your office because I do want to learn more guitar. So
do it, man.
That's awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ben. Yeah.
And we're going to have Zach back because there's so many things I want to talk about. The relationship between you and Sasha. We've had other husband-wife deals on here before. It's such an interesting dynamic, but we've already taken up ways.
That'd be a great time. I mean, you could just do a podcast just on
Sasha
on that. Yeah, that would be.
So we have another mic.
Yes,
that would be awesome. We'd love that. We've learned so much from just together. We have some great advice on that Yeah.
So it's booked.
Yeah, let's do it.
It's booked.
That'd be sweet.
So I think that's everything I have been.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. 32 teachers, 600 students or more weekly. It's great.
Yep.
Good for you.
Wow.
Thank you.
Unbelievable, man. Thanks, Zach.
Thank you, John. Thanks, guys.
This has been another episode of Voices from the Valley. If you'd like to be a guest or know someone that would be a great guest, send us an email at voicesfromthevalley@gmail.com. Want to learn more about Ben Tallberg and AFA Auto Repair? Head over to afaautorepair.com or call 978-388-5959. Want to learn more about John Bachmann and Norwood Insurance Agency? Head over to norwoodinsurance.com or call 978-372-5921. Thanks for tuning in to Voices from the Valley.